Ciao tutti, I'm Ivan and welcome to the Academy of Philosophy and Fine Arts. This is the last and third video of the series of videos that I planned talking about the language. In the first one I talked about my personal experience and connection to the languages that I've learned. The second one I talk about some theory, some philosophical approach to the languages and the ideas behind them. And in this last video I will talk about some empirical and concrete tricks and strategies that I've learned over the years with my personal experience that I would like to share. Maybe they're gonna be helpful for you as well when you're trying to learn a language. So I begin with the first point, which is also the most important one. The best way to learn a language. The best way to do it is to have a very good reason, a fundamental reason to do it. There's no way around it. You can just do it as your second passion. You can just do it as a hobby. You can do it because you need it for an exam. Like, there could be many reasons, but if this reason is not fundamentally important for you, it's just a matter of time. You're gonna give up sooner or later. You're gonna forget it if you learn it. So you need to have a very good reason to learn a language, because this is going to keep you motivated through the time, and it's really going to it's going to be the reason why you do it. So it's going to be fundamental for you. For example, I decided to learn German because I knew it was going to be very important for my philosophical career. So for me it was never giving up or not being able to learn it was never taken into consideration. It was never part of the plan. It was since the beginning a matter of time and patience. Like, I knew I have to dedicate myself, and eventually I managed. So the second point is that you need to find your own method and approach. There are thousands of studies regarding the best ways to approach a language, the best ways to study them, the tricks, the strategies, and so on. I read them myself as well, but my personal opinion is that there is no such a thing as like a method that works for everyone. You need to find your own way, because we are different people and we have different ways of approaching the studies. Maybe what works for me doesn't work for you. I will share some general considerations later, but for some people works listening a lot, for some people works reading, some people just need to speak as much as they can. So everyone has its own approach. You need to find the best way for you to study a language, which maybe depends also on the language itself, because maybe the way you learn English is not the same you're gonna learn Italian or French or so on. So third point, in a language we need to consider several aspects, and I'm just gonna mention some of them to give you an idea, because I want you to keep in mind that language is a complex phenomenon, that it's like a system that keeps growing. It's a system that it's not dead, it's not just stable, it's alive. Like, the language is always alive. The language is used by people in everyday life, and it grows and it leaves things behind, and it's a phenomenon that is alive. So it is a complex phenomenon, and there is different aspects, as I was saying. For sure, one very important aspect is the grammar. The grammar is basically the fundamental basis that you have, that you need to learn this language. Each language has its own grammar. It can be more or less complex, but they all have grammar. Grammar, just to give you like a similitude, if it's like the rules of a game. So you cannot play the game if you don't know the rules. You cannot know the language if you don't know any grammar at all. Now, about this, very important is when you learn a language, it's gonna be easier if you know very well your own language, because often people learn other languages but without having a very good notion about their own language. But if you know your language, if you know the structure, it's gonna be way easier to learn other languages. Now, the second example that I can make of an aspect of a language is also the vocabulary. It's fundamental because vocabulary is what we use to build more and more complex expressions, thinking. We become more precise because we could use a certain sentence in all contexts, but the language is very flexible and has a lot of words. So maybe in a context we could use more precise words that would allow us to express better. And this is why vocabulary is fundamental. It's like, to stay in this similitude examples, it's like the bricks of a construction. We need them to have the material to construct whatever we are constructing, in this case the language. Now there are some other aspects about the language which are fundamental, like pronunciation or the logic of a language. Every language has its own logic, their way of thinking, their way of expressing, and also the flexibility of a language, how it's more suitable for certain things or others. And yeah, this is just to give some examples. Now, fourth point, we need, when we learn language, we need to understand what is our goal, because based on our goal, our approach to the language is going to be different. Because maybe my goal is A, your goal is B, and then we don't need to study the same things. Of course, there are these kind of fundamental aspects of a language that we all need to learn in order to develop it, but certainly there are certain things that are more important based on your goal. For example, the so-called dead languages, so for example Latin or ancient Greek, we don't learn these languages because we use them to speak with people. We learn them because we learn to read and to be able to translate eventually. Or there's of course some other pedagogical reasons. For example, it allows you to develop your logic, just like in any problem in mathematics. In the same way, you learn the structure and the logic of a language. But besides this, these languages are learned for this purpose, so we don't use them to speak. In the same way, everyone has its own goal. For example, maybe I just want to speak Spanish. I don't need to read and understand it. I don't need to read and be able to write it, but I need just to understand it and speak it. So I'm just gonna focus on these aspects. Another person, maybe it's very important just to learn to read a language, just what I've done at the beginning with German. Now I develop all its aspects, but yeah, it depends on your goal. One last point, the fifth point. Maybe it's something obvious, but you need to dedicate. It needs every language. It needs a lot of dedications and patience. It cannot just take some months to learn a language. I mean, maybe you're an extraordinary genius, I don't know, and you can learn it out of 2 months, dedicating yourself like every day 20 hours. I don't believe in this method. I don't think it's possible, because this is not how the language works. Language needs time, just like anything else. It's like trying to grow a tree in 3 weeks and you want a tree of 2 meters tall. It's not possible. It has its own time. But I don't know. You have your own approach. Maybe you have possibility to learn it faster. But I just think that there are, of course, certain things, certain aspects of a language that we can accelerate. For example, we can learn a lot of grammar and have like a very solid basis. And this is something we can do very intensely in a short time. But other aspects like the vocabulary, I believe it's not, you cannot just learn like 100 words per day and think to dominate the language in some months, because this is not how it works. The language, the words need to be used and just takes time. You cannot accelerate this part of the process, I believe. I mean, of course, you can try to dedicate yourself to this aspect every day. For example, you can read, you can talk, and all these things. You can listen. This way you develop this part as well, but I mean, it just takes time. It just takes time, and it's normal. Every language takes time. So yeah, this is all I had to say about the suggestions about languages. If you have questions, you can, more specific questions, you can write to me. Maybe I will make a video about it. And yeah, that's it for all the free videos that I've done. I hope my experience and my considerations and my suggestions can help you. And yeah, that's it for this video. I'm Ivan. This is the Academy of Philosophy and Fine Arts. And yeah, thank you for watching.